during the time when I was really ill, I was still pulling everything out of me. Like, no one could really restrain me. I was like kicking nurses, putting them out of work for a few days. And then apparently one day I just had enough and I just ripped everything out of my arms, sprinted down the hall. My dad's apparently chasing me down the hall. One of the nurses is like, I've got her, Danny. And my dad's like, you don't, let me get to her. I'm on a stroke and neurology ward at this point as well. So I'm knocking all these old people out of the way who've just had strokes. I get to the doors at the end of the hospital. And obviously you have to press like a metal button to get out the doors. I did not, I just ran straight through it.
Have you noticed, Abi Burton, that you might be missing something?
Maybe.
Look at my new piece of jewellery, everybody. This is amazing.
It's
cool,
there's
only a handful of people now that get to brag that they've got one of these. It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it?
It is.
Rugby World Cup winning medal. I mean, I know we're going to get to the defining moment piece because that's the sort of the whole focus of the podcast, but please just tell me what it feels like to have one of these and to keep it, because I'm holding it at the minute. But what does it feel like to know that it's yours?
Honestly, I didn't take it off for maybe 3-4 days. I slept in it after the final. It's like, sometimes I look at it and just have to remind myself of like the journey and everything to it, and like that we actually did it. Like, we've been talking about it for so long since the last World Cup when the girls lost the final to New Zealand, talking about it for so long, and now we've finally done it and we finally got one. It's so cool. It's so cool. That's all I can say.
I'm gonna get emotional talking about it later with you, because it was just the most magic thing to watch, and magic if you've got a daughter as well, to actually sit there together and see that unfold like it did, because it was just brilliant. Anyway, we'll get there in a moment. Now, the reason why this is so special is actually a lot of that is to do with the journey that you've been on. So when we ask people to pick a defining moment, they don't get sort of almost more heartbreaking, I think, than yours. Just tell us what it is.
Yeah,
I'll give you back your medal.
That's all right. So my defining moment since my professional career started, since my life began in 2000 when I came out of the womb, was I was really quite ill in 2022. So I was diagnosed with a rare brain illness called autoimmune NMDA receptor encephalitis, which basically in short term, my body basically attacked itself, thought that it was in trouble, attacked my brain, and then caused my brain to swell. It affects 1 in 1.6 million people. So it's extremely so rare. Yeah. And because it was so rare, I was misdiagnosed to begin with. So I was first off thought it was stress-induced psychosis. It was the same year as the Commonwealth Games, year after the Tokyo Olympics. And yeah, so thought I was stressed because the Commonwealth was coming up, but basically started presenting like real manic and aggressive behaviour. So was sectioned, I think, for about 3 weeks, but I don't remember any of it when I was ill. Eventually they found out what was wrong with me, but I was so poorly by that point that they had to put me in a coma, in the ICU, and I was in a coma for 3.5 weeks when they originally told my mum, we'll put her to sleep for 3 days and that will be it. And yeah, 3.5 weeks later, woke up, I'd lost 25 kilos, but I had no clue what was going on. Like, I thought I'd had a baby. Like, I thought, I was so confused. I was just in the ICU like, oh, what's going on the ceiling? But yeah, that kind of changed my life from there on out. And just over the past couple of years, kind of my mindset towards rugby's shifted. Like, before my illness, if I didn't get selected for anything, I was like soul destroyed. It would completely break me inside. And I think if I hadn't have been selected to go to Tokyo, I would have really, really, really struggled. But after that happened, I just kind of realised that like rugby isn't everything to me anymore. Like, the thing that's everything to me is my friends, my family, and me just living my life and being happy. And yeah, ever since that moment, now I just take every day as it is, and I can't waste any moments, because if I relapse, I might not be able to play rugby again. There might be too much of a risk for me. So every day as it comes, and just try and push the boundaries every single day because I don't know when would be my last game of rugby.
See, therein lies the dichotomy, because you say, I want to push the boundaries every single day, but then there's this slight fear, what if you relapse? So how do you know where to strike the balance of that?
Yeah, I actually went to a what are they called, a psychic, psychic or
a psychic,
a card reader,
yeah.
And I asked her if she thought I was going to relapse. I know, it's so weird, but I know in myself that.
Well, hang on a minute. What did she say?
She said that I wasn't going to relapse, which is good. But actually, I know in myself that I'm not scared of relapsing, because I know that I have a bigger part to me than just rugby. I'm so much more than that as a person. So I'm not scared of that. And the treatment that I went through was so aggressive that they are 90% sure that I won't relapse. But I'm still an unknown in the world of medical and sport mixed together. So they don't really know, but I'm not scared of it, which means that I can push the boundaries every day. If I just lived in fear, then I probably never would have gone back to playing rugby, because it was something to do with my head, obviously head injuries in sport. At the time, we were trying to find out if it was something to do with that, but it never was. But it's always going to be a scary thought linking a head illness to head injuries in sport. But I can't live like that, and I refuse to live like that. So that's why I just carried on the way that I did.
So take me back to this moment then, because it turned out not to be a moment. It was a long period of time where you're then on a real road to recovery after this first happens. What first happened, which was the sort of trigger that made you and those that love you and are around you all the time think, oh, something's off here? What happened?
Yeah, so I started just acting really down. I'm a really bubbly, talkative, happy person, and I kind of just started to just withdraw from everybody. I saw our psychologist at the time, and she suggested that I need to be assessed at the GP, see if I had depression. Came back that they thought I did. So that was kind of the first telltale sign that I was sad, but I didn't know why. My best friend Celia, who played in the GB7 squad with me at the time, she would just say, you would say to me, you're sad, but you didn't know why. And we were trying to get together to try and figure it out, but we couldn't. And then after that, I started having seizures. So my first seizure was sat at the dinner table with my mum, just turned into a fitting seizure at the dinner table.
And you'd never had anything like it before?
Never, but I can't remember any of this. So I wouldn't even be able to tell you what a seizure would even feel like if I was going to have one. But I was having seizures continuously for 2 or 3 months when I was poorly. But that's kind of when it all started to go downhill, was after that first seizure. And then my behaviour changed from depressive to manic, basically, which was presented itself in, I punched my mum in the face with my phone in my hand, I bust her lip open. And then apparently 10 minutes later, I was like, Mum, why is your lip bleeding? Wow. She's like, no, it's fine. Nothing. I just fell over or something like that, because I couldn't remember anything. And that was the thing. Any information that was coming in, I couldn't remember it. So if I would have met someone during that time, I wouldn't be able to remember it.
So that's really terrifying for your parents, because they can sort of see their really happy, bubbly kid who's really into sport and really kind of vivacious and outgoing and everything else is withdrawing, but also getting aggressive.
Yeah, they just had no clue what was going on, but they also, Mum always says she knew that wasn't me. So she doesn't hold anything against me for what I did at that time. Yeah. But yeah, I imagine that it was very scary for them. And then when I got sectioned, nothing was getting better. They just were suggesting that I was schizophrenic or I had bipolar.
And you didn't really scare yourself during this time because you didn't really know what was going on. You couldn't recall it?
No, I've got no memory. So started getting ill in the May, had my first seizure on the 15th of June in 2022. And then from the end of May until the middle of August, after I woke up, it's a bit blurry, but for those months I've got no memory. So I wouldn't even be able to tell you what the room looked like where I was sectioned in, because I didn't even know the hospital was next to the hospital that I was in. Because I said to my mum, I've just seen a side for Fieldhead Hospital. And mum was like, yeah, it's just next door to Pinderfields. And I was like, so I was in there and then I've moved over here. And she was like, yeah, but I had no clue. which is it's a bit scary when you think about it, but my mum and dad are really glad that I don't remember any of it.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And then you were actually placed in a coma, right? For a period of time to allow the body to sort of repair itself, to regenerate.
Yeah. So basically, because I was so aggressive and so manic, anytime they'd try and put treatment in my neck or in my arms or anything, I'd just rip it out, because I couldn't, they couldn't sedate me either at the time, because I was so lean and muscular that nothing was like keeping me at bay. So I needed plasma exchanges and I needed chemo-based treatment, which they couldn't do whilst I was awake. So they just said, we're going to have to put her to sleep. And my dad was the only one at the hospital during that time. And yeah, he, at the time, he's a lot better now. But at the time, mum and dad are both ex-police officers. And when you put someone in a coma, they don't wake up in the police. And when my dad said, putting me to sleep, he didn't know if I was going to wake back up, and he was the only one there to make that decision during that time. So yeah, I was asleep for 3.5 weeks, was meant to be 3 days. During the time, I still was having seizures whilst I was asleep, so they just didn't know what was wrong with me. Eventually I had a treatment named rituximab, which is a chemo-based treatment. So I had 2 doses of that whilst I was asleep, and the seizures stopped, basically. Then when I woke up, my mum said that they were progressively waking me up. And they were like, if Abby tries to go for her face or tries to go for the tubes, we know that she's not got any brain damage. And mum said it was one of the happiest moments when I went to go and try and pull the tube out my throat, which probably isn't a good look anyway. But she knew then that I didn't have any lasting brain damage. Obviously didn't know what I would be cognitively functioning, day-to-day stuff, but she knew that I was still have some sort of function. And then after that, woke up, and it was just a big old rebuild journey from there.
And I mean, the most incredible part as well of this story is that there was sort of a happenstance moment where your dad meets this, is it a doctor or a surgeon, who says, I think this actually isn't what you think it is. I think it might be something else. And you're put through these tests that determine what you have. Yeah.
So when I was in the psychiatric hospital, a man named Mark Harper came and saw my notes on the NHS Mid Yorkshire Trust, their database, because he researches illnesses. And he said that he saw my notes and he looked at them and it just didn't look right. And he said he went to bed and then woke up in the middle of the night, bolt upright, and was like, I know what it is. I know what it is. And went on the internet and started researching. And he was like, that's it. And then he came to hospital, asked my dad if he could take some blood. And my dad consented to me having my blood taken. And then he sent it off to Oxford Experimental Lab, which is the only lab in the country that tests for my type of illness. So wouldn't show up on a normal blood test, wouldn't show up on an MRI, wouldn't show up on any sort of CT scans. It's only this blood test that would confirm or deny whether I have this type of brain illness. And he sent it and it came back with positive for my illness.
Can you ever have imagined, what if he had never read those notes? What if he had never had that moment with your dad and they hadn't had that conversation, your dad hadn't consented? Because fair enough, you might not. I mean, all of these things that, could have, would have, should have. Unbelievable to think that, out of that particular, group of people that were to read your notes, it was him, and he actually had the wherewithal to challenge everybody on it.
Yeah, I actually have met Mark a few times, and I say to Mark, you saved my life, and he's like, no, I didn't, and I'm like, well, you did, because I probably would have died, because I kept having the seizures whilst I was in the psychiatric unit, but they weren't treating my seizures. They were just treating me with antipsychotics, not with any sort of anti-seizure medication. So yeah, I'd probably still be in there now if they hadn't have treated me for it, or I would have passed.
Oh, you just can't even bear thinking about that. So how grateful are you for him and his intervention? But then what happens? So you wake up, you're in this room, you don't remember anything about what's just gone by. The Commonwealths have happened.
Yeah, the Commonwealths have happened, yeah.
So what's your reaction to that?
Yeah, so I remember I was laying there, and then you start to understand things that are starting to happen in front of you. And I remember saying to mum, what time is it? What date is it? She was like, oh, we're in August. And I was like, the Commonwealth Games. And she's like, yeah, it's happened. And I was like, how long's till the World Cup, the Sevens World Cup? She was like, well, it's next month. And I was like, all right, then we can do it. And Mum was like, no, you can't do it. I was like, oh, why not? Like, I was like, I don't remember looking at myself and thinking, gosh, you are not okay. Like, I just thought I was all right. And by this point I hadn't walked yet. And I'm saying to Mum that I'd be fine in a few weeks to go to the World Cup in South Africa. And it wasn't until our doctor came in, Doc GB, and I asked her, like, when can I play again? And she was like, we're just going to have to wait and see. But I was just so eager just to do everything.
But was your disposition when you woke up completely different? Like, was it the positive Abi that had always been, as opposed to this person that you probably didn't recognize from previous months?
Yeah, like all the nurses, because eventually I went back so I was on the ward A2 in Pinderfields Hospital, then I got moved to ICU, and then I came back to A2. So all these people had already met me before, but I was meeting them for the first time. And one of the nurses actually said to me, she said, we were a bit scared when you came back down because you were a bit difficult before. And I actually saw... Well, after I started walking around, I saw one of the security guards walking up and down the stairs, and he went, Abi, you look so well. And I looked at him like, who are you? And I said, oh, thank you. And Mum came in to see me, and I went, Mum, why is one of the security guards just said to me, I look really well? And she was like, sit down. You need to hear this story. So during the time when I was really ill, I was still pulling everything out of me. Like, no one could really restrain me. I was like kicking nurses, putting them out of work for a few days. And then apparently one day I just had enough. And I just ripped everything out of my arms, sprinted down the hall. My dad's apparently chasing me down the hall. One of the nurses is like, I've got her, Danny. And my dad's like, you don't, let me get to her. I'm on a stroke and neurology ward at this point as well. So I'm knocking all these old people out of the way who've just had strokes. I get to the doors at the end of the hospital. And obviously you have to press like a metal button to get out the doors. I did not. I just ran straight through it, bust it open, like got onto the middle bit of Pinderfields Hospital, which is where the entrance is. And eventually someone gets me to the ground and they sedate me. But that's why after then the security had to stand outside my doors. So then I didn't hurt anybody else. So yeah, when I woke up, I was no longer like that. So you did
have your own private security guard for all the wrong reasons.
I did. But when I woke up, that person couldn't have been further from who I am now. Kind of woke up and everyone was a little bit hesitant, but they knew that wasn't me, and just kind of went back to my old self. And I was just ready to take on whatever was in front of me, and push the boundaries and just be happy again.
I mean, when I think about it now, like, you know, you're part of that World Cup winning squad. And yet, just like 3 years ago, you're describing these absolutely awful scenes and what you had to go through and, you know, being right at the other end of the spectrum, basically. How do you go from where you were that morning you woke up and went, oh no, I've missed the Commonwealths and the Sevens is next month, but I'm not going to make it, to here? Like, how long a journey? We know how long it is in years, but actually physically, mentally, that journey that you've been on, what on earth did that feel like? What did it look like?
For me, I was craving this thought of trying to be who I was before I was ill. And it's never going to happen. I'm never going to be the person that I was before I was ill, physically or mentally.
So you just had to park that and let go of it.
But it took me a while. Like, it took me probably until last year. We went to the Paris Olympics and I went as a reserve, but I ended up playing. And at the time when we got selected and I was a reserve, I was like, I just wish I wasn't ill. I wish I hadn't had that stop in time. Like, I would have been going, like I would have been tearing up. Like, I was always like resentful of it. And then after that, I was just at a point of I can't keep chasing something that's never going to happen anymore. Like, I can't keep...
Did something happen there that just kind of like made you go, okay, I've got to put this to bed and move on with my life? Was there an actual moment?
It was after I decided to leave the Sevens at the end of the Olympics last year. I'd given my life and the majority of my younger playing years to go into Olympics, for us never to get a medal. And I kind of just got to the point where I was like, I'm not that person anymore. The person who wanted to get those medals at the Olympics was pre-illness Abi. Yes, when I woke up, of course I wanted to go to another Olympics because that was always the goal.
Yeah.
But I was just so different body-wise, and it was super frustrating. And I was like, well, I can't keep doing this. I need to try and go after one of my other goals, which was to go to a World Cup and go be a world champion. And from that moment on, I just learned that I've got to just leave it now. I've got to leave it in the past and understand I'm never going to be that person again, but I'm going to be a new, better person that I am now. But I don't regret her, how I was during that time, because she's stubborn, she knows what she wants, and she'll push the boundaries on everything that she does. And that's ultimately what got me back to playing international rugby so quickly. And I had an amazing team around me who believed in me and who believed I could do it. And they were the people that helped me get there. So I don't regret her, but I'm glad that I've gotten to this point now.
Now, I've got a young daughter, and I think if my daughter had gone through what you'd gone through, I think I'd be that mum who'd go, no way, you are not going back to that rugby field. There's too much there that could cause a problem. I mean, how were your parents in response to the fact that, no, I'm going to dust myself down? I mean, I know they know it makes you happy, but there must have been like this reticence to let you go and get on with it like that.
Yeah, my mum was extremely worried when I first came out of the coma, not from a rugby point of view, because she trusted the experts and the people around us who said that it wasn't anything to do with rugby, but more from a living life point of view. When I first came out of hospital, I couldn't look after myself. We have a funny story about soy sauce, if you want to hear it, but
we can't not hear it. Go on.
So when I first came out of hospital, I was so driven that I wanted to do everything myself. And I'd just gotten home and I thought I was fine. I was in hospital for a month after I woke up from the coma, and I've got this bottle of soy sauce. And I'm like, Mum, I can do it myself. Get off the soy sauce bottle. I just want to put some soy sauce over my noodles. And I've got this soy sauce, and because I had really bad tremors from ICU, and I'm throwing this soy sauce all over the kitchen, all over the table. And Mum's like, why didn't you just let me do it? I'm like, I could do it myself. And she was worried. Like, I know it's a funny story, but she was just worried I couldn't do normal daily tasks. Yeah. But I'm also my mother's daughter, and I'm stubborn and I'm driven, and that's what we are as Burtons. We're driven and we go after what we want. So like, they can't blame me for being like that, because they created that. They created this fiery girl who wanted to push every single boundary possible. So I think that they were worried, but they also knew that I was in the best hands medically, from the Sevens point of view, from the RFU, from my club. And then it took me a year of basically living at home for me to be able to move my life back down to London and live on my own again.
Yeah, you can't. And as a parent, I mean, I say that, you would be trying to stop your child from doing anything that's going to put them in harm's way. But again, you also know that you cannot wrap them in cotton wool.
Yeah.
That they need to live their own lives. So I get it. That's all part of it. And so mentally, it took a while to get you to a place where you kind of knew which direction of travel you were going in, and you could sort of put to bed the Abi of old and move forward. What about physically? Because presumably you lost a lot of muscle mass being in a hospital environment like that for such a chunk of time.
Yeah.
And also you're obviously not at your peak fitness levels that you need to be at to play competitively like you have been.
So actually, even though I was able to drop the mental stuff like more recently, my mental state never really changed. Like, I knew I was always so driven. The physical stuff I really, really struggled with. So I lost 20 kilos. So I went down to 65 kilos. Put all the weight back on, and then I was on steroids, so I just ballooned. I then put all the weight back on and more. I was at the heaviest I'd ever been, and I was trying to play international rugby sevens, and I was just struggling. And my breathing was so bad. From a physical point of view, I was just distraught, because I'd worked so hard for so many years, from the age of 18 being fully professional. Before that, was working hard at college, at the rugby college that I was at Hartpury. and I'd built myself up to be in this unit.
Yeah.
And then I went into a coma, and then it just threw it all away in the space of 3 months. And I was like, gosh. And I would say that I think I'm now back at my peak physical condition, and that's taken me 3 and a bit years. It was undone by 3 months. It was really, really hard. Like, I couldn't feel confident in my own skin. I had extreme acne after I came out of hospital. I lost loads of my hair. As I said, ballooned. I just didn't look like myself. I couldn't get my head around it. You know, as every woman, you go through, I'm not attractive, all that type of stuff. And I was like, all I want to do is play rugby, but now I'm fighting all these other battles because I physically don't feel and look the same. But yeah, that took the most time, was the physical rebuild, to get back to like peak condition. But yeah, I think that definitely when I look back over it, I think that was the most hard part of that journey.
So when you look at that medal, like sat on the podcast table right in front of you there, I mean, there must be huge feelings of pride. And would the Abi of old been able to take not being selected for that final in the way that you probably could take it, because you had so much bigger picture philosophy going on in your head as opposed to that Abi of old? Yeah,
I think definitely. I think that always frustrations come when you're not selected for things, but like, I have to put my journey into perspective. And when I left the Sevens, like, I knew that I wanted to try for the World Cup within the next year, but I also knew that it would be okay if I didn't get there, because rugby isn't everything anymore. It can't be when you have something like that happen to you. So, like, I'm extremely proud for my part that I played in the World Cup, like, extremely proud. I think that things like that don't happen very often, and you don't get to make history in such a massive way very often. And the fact that I was able to be a part of that, I'm super, super proud of the journey that I've been on over the past couple of years. But I also know that I'm just getting started as well, which is even more exciting.
I love that. Take us inside what it's like to be one of the Red Roses, or what it was like to be one of the Red Roses during that like 5-week campaign, because we as a nation, like, from the start to the finish, like, getting excited, rooting for you, behind you, like, absolutely, you know, so vested in you guys doing well, you girls doing well, I should say. But what is it like to be on the inside of that journey?
Yeah, it's interesting, because even just we take the 5-6 week snippet at the end of the campaign, we'd been in camp since the end of June, start of July. And those first weeks was hell on earth. If I'm not, that's the only way I can put it. I was in the blender the first 4 weeks of training camp. I was like, is this ever going to end? I need this to end.
What does the blender look like? What is the blender?
Lots of running, being sick, not being able to breathe, just fighting for dear life, basically. And trying to prove that...
Is it super competitive?
Yeah. The Red Roses, like, I'm obviously biased, but I think it's the most competitive team in the world. We have one of the best leagues in the world. Lots of internationals come over and play in the PWR. So that one makes it competitive from that point of view, because we're fighting against other internationals to play in our own league, which doesn't really happen around the world. And then you bring in the mix of the Red Roses, just even in my position, like Maddie Fianati, who was nominated for Breakthrough Player of the Year last year. Alex Matthews has been nominated for World Player of the Year countless times. Marley Packer won World Player of the Year a few years ago. Zoe Allcroft, World Player of the Year. Like, we have such a depth and breadth of talent within our squad that it just makes training like 10 times the level of what you think it should be. But it's super cool. Like, I've grown up watching a lot of these girls play rugby. I've been lucky enough to play with some of them at club over years when I first started out in 15s. And it's super just cool, amazing. Every single word that I can think of, to be surrounded by such inspirational women.
And they've all been on they've all got their own journeys and their own stories to tell, as have you. And I guess that's very galvanizing because you've had each other's backs all the way through.
Yeah, we like to do, like at the start of a day, we have a meeting, and someone will come up and talk about their journey and their story. And I think it's really important that we all do that. My journey's obviously what my journey is, and it's a bit weird and there's loads of stuff going on in it. But that doesn't take away from somebody else's journey as well, because their journey is just important to them. They've lived it. Everyone's journey is different. And I think it's important for us all to know that. So we're a very connected group because of that. Like, we want to learn about each other. We want to learn what makes each other tick. And John Mitchell is very much about that. He's about the connection. He's about the culture within our group.
There are no surprises, are there, that any of these seriously high-performing or repeat-winning teams are teams of people that have been there and done that with each other on many an occasion before, and have that depth of friendship and understanding. I mean, you talked to Mike Tyndall about that World Cup winning squad of 2003.
Yeah.
And he'll talk about that. Like, they just instinctively knew. Is that like it is for you girls? You just instinctively know each other so well, and you can be almost telepathic with each other on the pitch, but also off it?
Yeah, I think there's also an element of that, but also the fact that we allow each other to be ourselves. I think that's the biggest thing. You go through a lot of team sports and you get wrapped up in the culture and the connection. But ultimately, if people are themselves first, it then allows the culture to come after that. That's one thing in our squad that I would say that everyone is authentically themselves. I don't see anyone behaving differently.
So is that something that like John Mitchell has kind of like really encouraged? Because it feels like you still have to work at all these things. So is that something that he's been able to do with all of you? Yeah,
definitely. So I first came into the squad this Six Nations campaign, and he just told me that I just needed to be myself. I didn't need to be like anybody else. And it took me a while, as it always does when you go into a new squad and you're trying to find your feet. But having the backing from your coach, the person at the top, and also the assistant coaches in Lou and Lewis Deacon as well, it really just helps you just want to be yourself. And Mitch talked a lot over World Cup that the players who weren't playing would be the people that hold the squad together, and we were the right people to do that job for him, and that just shows like how connected we are as a group and how much the culture drove obviously us winning the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. And that everyone has a role to play in that organisation and in that group of people. So morning of World Cup final, what's kind of running through the kind of the locker room? What's the general vibe? What's the feeling? Is everyone nervous, or are they excited? Is there a mixture of both things going on? Where's everyone's heads at?
Definitely a mixture of both.
And do some people like respond sort of that need to be sort of collectively gathered around, and others like, just leave me, I need to do my own thing?
We actually have on the bus, like it's kind of split up a little bit, like the people at the front who've got their headphones on, and then you've got people at the back who have their headphones on, and then there's like a group of us in the middle who are all like yapping away.
They should be at the back of the bus. That's what normally happens.
But yeah, definitely a mixture of a lot of thoughts and feelings, but there was also quite like a calmness as well. Like we knew we were ready, and we knew we were as prepared as we possibly could be, and kind of that feeling of no matter what's going to be thrown at us today, we're gonna be able to do it. And genuinely,
that's interesting.
I think you get that when you know you're ready to win something. Like I know that a lot of Olympians speak about when they've won their gold medals, like they know that they were ready to win it, and it wasn't a surprise. Especially those players or those people who have been consistently dominant over years, like they know they're ready to do that.
And I guess there were quite a few of you who'd been there with that New Zealand defeat those years earlier, had tasted that, didn't want it again, and kind of almost needed and knew how to go about being in. Because also being in a final, especially on home soil, I mean, what's that like? Because every bit of attention is on you, and you've got to sort of manage that as well.
Yeah, there was a lot of the girls from 2017 and 2021 who had lost both finals still in the squad now.
Of course.
But I remember Zoe, our captain, she was just so calm the whole bit before. Obviously, she probably is fighting inside.
It's like a swan.
Yeah, but like we knew, like especially me coming in as well, like we wanted to do it for them. The girls who had lost the last 2 finals, like especially from my point of view, like I know how much that meant to them. Meant a lot to me, but I didn't have the scars that I was carrying with it. So we definitely wanted to do it for them.
That's interesting that you say that, because you know the fresh group of girls coming in who haven't got that sort of, you know, that on their back from previous. I guess that does give the squad a really much needed sort of injection of not carrying around something with them that previously hasn't gone their way, a bit of baggage.
We had spoken about it though, like we'd spoken about what would happen if we met New Zealand in a final, what would happen if they were trying to rattle us and all this type of stuff, and how do we drop what's happened over previous years now. Like we'd spoken about all of it. So we knew that we were in the best place possible to go and play in a home World Cup final, and it was brilliant. Like when we were in the stadium, I've only been at Twickenham, Allianz Stadium once when it's been full, which was New Zealand versus South Africa a few years ago. I've never been in there when it's felt like that. When every single person, bar a few, are in there singing Swing Low.
Yeah.
Like you just can't, you can't describe it. Like every single part of you is just filled with pride. Like you see people in the ground, you see young girls, you see the older generation as well. Like we've hit every single demographic that you possibly could hit just from coming to watch a Red Roses fixture. The national anthem was incredible. It was incredible.
How do you kind of keep your emotions in check, or did you bother to keep them in check during that time? I mean, it must be so hard not to get swept up with it all.
It is hard, because especially when you're not necessarily playing, you think about a lot of other different things. Me just even opposite one of my other friends, Meg Jones, when she's singing the national anthem, I always try and stand opposite Meg if I'm not playing, or I stand next to her, just because like I can feel our energy from across from each other, because I know how much it means. I know the journeys that we've both been on together and individually. And it's, you do get emotional. I think when we played against Samoa, my eyes started filling up and I had to stop myself because I'm singing the national anthem with, I can feel all my family like surrounding me, and a lot of them were there, and it was one of the proudest moments. But you do get emotional, but that's because it means a lot, and you don't need to shy away from it either. Like I've learned, you can be emotional and it's just because you care.
So 80 minutes. And it's yours, and you're like, oh my God, we're all going to get to take home one of those things.
Yeah.
The culmination of all that work, all that effort, like obviously that sort of like really intense period at the end, but so much that had gone before it. And for you personally, your whole sort of storyline of coming out of this really dark place to end up being in the melee and in this sort of mix of girls that have achieved this amazing thing. What was that emotion like in that moment? It must have been incredible.
It was. I don't think there's a word that I have to describe it, but just like, wow, that's all I felt like. And after that, as we were walking around the pitch and I was banging the drum around the pitch as I always do, I was just looking up and I was like, oh my gosh, like we've changed rugby in this country now. Like there is nothing that can compare to this moment. And I just hope that we carry on this momentum now. And I remember just walking around just thinking, wow, okay, incredible. So many people, and they're all just here for us. And it's just super special to be a part of something like that. And I got to go see my mum and my auntie afterwards. And they were just so proud of me. They were so happy to be there, so happy to be a part of that bit of history. And yeah, it's amazing. And it's weird when you talk about something for so long, and all we'd spoken about since the start of this year, for me anyway, but for the girls it had been since the last World Cup final, all they'd spoken about was winning. And then you finally do something and you're like, all right then, well, what's the next thing we do now? Because we've done that one. And you just go into that kind of pattern because you're a professional athlete. But I made sure to relish in the moment of this one.
And I love the fact that like Ellie Kildunne since has come out and sort of said, I want to smash through every glass ceiling that there is. I mean, she's got her own Barbie doll now, which is brilliant. But I guess that's the thing, isn't it? Like, can you maintain that momentum? Can you ride that wave so that rugby for women in this country doesn't become just about that moment? It has so much more in it now as a result of that moment. I mean, is that going to happen?
I hope so. We do everything that we can on the pitch. Like we've gone 32, 31 games unbeaten.
Yeah, what more can you do?
What more can what more can we do? And I think it's a responsibility for people around us now, for brands, for sponsors. Like, if you want to get involved, and now's the time to do it. And like, we can't do any more. It's got to come from other people on pushing it from a media point of view, like making our sport more commercial. That's what it's going to take to carry and go through. I actually went to the NFL at the weekend, got to walk on the pitch. It was amazing. And just to see what they do with their sport, not just on pitch, but the way they make it so entertaining, like, it needs to just keep moving forward. We need to use this momentum and just keep moving forward with it. Or otherwise, like, I would like to hope that it wouldn't be a forgotten moment in history.
Me too, absolutely. And also like the effort and the work ethic that all of you have and have proven what can be achieved and how you got the nation behind you and everything else. Let's not make it that way. Let's just keep the momentum going. Because one of the things that does strike me is actually, a stable career path for women in this game is still needing to be defined.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. Like, the majority of the PWR, which is the league that we all play in, there's a lot of girls who aren't professional still. Some of the girls still go to their jobs as nurses, as teachers, and then still come and play on a weekend. And you don't really find that in the men's game. I know we're behind to some extent just because of the nature of a sport being male dominated for so long. But I'd hope that this moment in time helps trying to change that. If we want to make the sport more exciting and we want to make the sport more competitive, we need to kind of get everyone on a level playing field, which is we need to make the game more professional. Clubs are starting to do a really, really good job of it. I know that at the club that I play at, we're really well supported in that. But there's still always work to be done to make it more professional.
I want to ask you about Barbies. Not specifically Barbies, but one particular sort of Barbie that's been modelled on someone in your team, Ellie Kildunne. And actually this idea of having these sort of star players and stars in a team and stars in a squad, because I remember interviewing Finn Smith and talking to him about it. He's like, I'm not afraid to be the star, which was so refreshing actually, because I think like if the game is to take off in a particular way, you do need these characters that like young girls can go, oh yeah, I want to be just like that. And someone who's prepared to sort of stand up and be that person. Is Ellie like that for you in that setup?
Oh, it's so funny because I've known Ellie since I was 13 years old. So
how did this happen?
I just see her as like this weird person who I've known since I was so young. Elle's a star in herself. Like, she always has been. She's always been unique and quirky. And it probably wasn't until she actually got more in the spotlight that she stopped caring about what other people thought.
Interesting.
And because as you're growing up, Ellie got thrusted into the Red Roses when she was 17, 18 years old. We're all young women at that point. Of course you care what other people think about you. We're going through puberty, of course you do. But as Elle started to come into her own and was able to get the title of World Player of the Year, she's just so authentically herself. And I think it's really refreshing to have. And it just so happens that she's a star on the pitch and a star off the pitch as well. I can't believe I'm saying this about her, but we'll just go, because it's actually what I think, but I'd never say it to her face.
No, she'll like hearing it. She'll be like, that's embarrassing, but she'll like hearing it deep down somewhere.
But I think we need people like that in the game. We went to a community event, did Meg Jones and I, and one of the girls in the community was asking me and Meg who our favourite player was. And Meg was like, not Ellie Kildunne like this, because all the young girls just love her. The amount of girls that had shirts on that had an Ellie Kildunne name on the back, number 15 had Kildunne. Like, it's so good.
Is she kind of surprised by that sort of reaction?
No, she's not surprised. She's not surprised.
She's cool with it.
She's cool with it. Like, she wants to be one of those people who is one of the faces of the sport. We've got Ilona Maher, Ellie Kildunne, Megs is moving up there as well, Meg Jones. And we need people like that.
Right? You need them.
Because it allows the young girls to be themselves.
Yeah.
So then when Ellie and I were 13, 14 years old, we didn't have those people. So then probably that's why it's taken us this long to get to a point where we're like, oh yeah, it's actually all right to be ourselves because people actually like us like this. No one's going to judge us.
That's a really important point, because as a girl becoming a woman, that is also like a real kind of hang up often.
Completely.
And you're really always often quite worried about, like you say, what people think. So to have those sort of stand-up girls who are prepared to do that, like, I mean, did you have some sort of story where you were carting Ilona Maher off down a road? What was it?
It was down some street in
what was that about?
in Biarritz in France, basically. So this was before Lo
she became a Barbie doll.
Before Lo became a Barbie doll. And we always like to go out on the piss with the Americans after sevens tournaments.
Why the Americans? They're just good value.
They're just good. They're just good crack. And we're in the middle of the street, and Naya Tapper, who's one of the other American girls, she was trying to teach me how to sprint because she was like, you're not very good at running at Bertie. And I was like, all right, okay, well, I'm not some ex-professional track athlete. Like, I'm just some kid from Castleford who's just come onto the rugby scene. And I was trying to get Ilona to the next bar, so I just shoved her on my shoulder. So I'm like walking up and down the street with Ilona on my shoulder, and her sister's got this video of me, and I'm in my England polo and my little shorts. I'm just walking around with Ilona on my shoulders. But like,
you get to do that now, but you can just have like the Barbie doll there.
Yeah, but just have the Barbie doll. I don't need to put Lo on my shoulder anymore.
Just pop that there.
Exactly. But like, these are the characters that we want in the sport.
Isn't she?
Yeah.
She's standout.
She's brilliant. Like, just the way that she's been able to just be herself. And it's been a journey from Tokyo when she started posting all that content. And the thing is that now that young girls can see that you can just be authentically yourself and no one cares. Like, if you look at Ilona, she's not a typical girl that you would see looks wise or personality wise, but she's just herself, and she's beautiful in every single way because she's just herself.
I think her confidence, or her self-confidence, and I hope it's completely real, is just so inspiring for young girls. Like, as the mum of a young daughter who's growing up in this very strange world now where social media is just coming at you from all angles and everything else, and it's hard to sort of just stay in, a very secure place. She's a marvel. She's like a revelation. She's like the best thing that we could possibly have.
Completely. And the thing is that we're not short of people like that either. But we haven't got to a point where
we need to champion them more.
Things where you're seeing people and seeing that they're like that as well. Like Hannah Bottoman in our squad, she's an absolute character, and she's very similar to Ilona in that way, and she's just herself and she doesn't care about it. And Bots gets her fair share of grief on social media, but she's just herself and she doesn't care what other people think. And
I really hope she doesn't care. Because sometimes it can be the way that you can say that, or you can act like that, and then deep down there, we're all human beings.
Completely.
And it's hard sometimes to take some of that stuff.
Completely. But I think
nor should you have to.
Exactly. But I think if we all champion each other from a friendship point of view, that actually other people's opinions don't really matter, and we can just go out there and be ourselves. But I'm really glad that we now have Ilona, who can be that kind of figure face for the sport. Everyone knows who she is if you play rugby or you don't play rugby. So hopefully we will start to champion more people within our sport, and we'll get more of the Henry Pollocks of the women's rugby. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, it's been so lovely having you on. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with me, because it's been brilliant, inspiring, heartbreaking in places, but in the end, what a feel-good feeling it is.
Yeah. No, Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.